A serious question to you. Where do you keep your data? Is it a local server? Is it a cloud? Is it Microsoft Azure? Or is it Amazon Web Services? That's the question for today. So, as you probably know, data security is a very important thing, and nowadays cloud services can do that quite well. They can provide you good security, no server. I mean, you don't have to worry about servers and everything like that. You just configure everything on the browser and everything goes like that. But what to do if you have your own server, on-premises server, and you are starting to migrate everything to Microsoft Azure? Yes, for this example, we'll use Microsoft Azure. So, if you want to have a data synchronization from your on-premises server, actually from Azure as well, it doesn't really matter, but in this case let's take an example from on-premises. So, how to configure that? Yes, let's do it. I will show you how to configure your data synchronization from your on-premises server to Microsoft Azure Cloud Services. So let's start with the Azure. I already have the account on the Azure, so I'll just jump to the database creation. I guess the account can be created by yourself quite easily as well. We have our SQL server already created, and we have a couple of databases that are also already created. So let's create a new database, the one we want to have our new data to be synchronized. Type the name. Now this is a little bit tricky thing, because if you are planning to have a lot of data and everything else, you might want to choose yes. In our case, we are doing this for the test purposes and our database will be quite small. So let's leave it no, and for the database, let's press configure. Let's look for the basic and let's select basic. So if you have like a small project, a small database, and you don't need big and huge resources, you can select basic and it will be almost for free. If you select any of standard, premium or vCore based solutions, that's a little bit costly, so keep that in mind. Of course, it depends for what reason you're configuring this, but in this case, we're gonna use basic. Press apply. Okay, next, networking. Everything is fine in here. Additional settings, we can leave it as it is. Tags, well, in this case, we don't need any. In the last page, we can review, and let's press create. It doesn't take long, just a couple of seconds. You will see a message that deployment is in progress, and after that you will see a message that your deployment is complete. We can press go to resource, and we can see that our database is created. Next thing, we have to go to sync to other databases menu option on the left side. Let's press on it. Everything is empty now, so let's press new sync group. Let's call it Azure Sync. Now, in this case, it's recommended by Microsoft sync metadata database. It's better to create a new database for this option. It's recommended by Microsoft, and it's better because some additional tables and procedures and other things will be created. So if you are planning to use this newly created database for some kind of analytics or something else, or some website to be shown, so it's better to have it separated, that you would not need to have everything mixed in one table. Let's select new database, leave it as it is. Let's configure it. Let's call it SyncDB, so that it would be easy to recognize what it's for. Resource group, yes, let's leave the one that we are using now, server as well, and the pricing tier, like I did before. If it's a small project, you don't need Gen 5 2 virtual cores for it. Let's change the plan to the basic. Yes, we can press on the plan again. Let's go to the basic and apply. We'll have some basic things, but it will be enough for this project. Press OK. Automatic sync is very useful, so let's turn it on. Let's say 5 minutes. And for the conflict resolution, you can choose which one will win, hub or member. Hub, this is our Azure server. Member is the database we are synchronizing from. So it's up to you to choose one of them. In my case, I'm gonna use hub. Select, press OK. Deployment won't take long. You will see a message as usual at the top right corner, and then notification will appear. Once it's completed, you will go to Add Sync Members tab automatically. You have to create a username, you have to type the username and the password of the database, this newly created database. In here, you have a couple of options. First one, you can create a new user in this new database, give that user permissions, and then you're good to go. What's a little bit strange and quite important, that this user needs to have alter permissions on the database, because it needs to create additional tables and additional procedures. In some cases, this might be not good, because the user will have all the permissions it needs. So it might be a security threat or issue. So keep that in mind. So let's create a user for our new database with the permissions that's needed. Of course, you can use global server admin credentials, it will work just fine. But for this case, let's create a new user in our new database. I'm already connected to our database, and as you can see, this is the name. Let's go to security, let's go to users, and we can see default users in here. Press right mouse button and select new user. As this is Microsoft Azure, you will not get a nice window on the screen where you could type everything out there. You will have to type it by the script. So, and one more important thing to know. You have to create a login first in your server. I already have a login created, so I will not create it now. It's fairly easy, just a one line of script to create it. So you have to create a user with the script in here. This script, it's quite simple. It says that you have to type the user name you want to use. So let's call it sync. Login, like I said, I already have created login, so it has the same name, it's called sync. The password for this user was created together with the login, so it's already here. We don't need to type a password again. And in here you can type the default schema you want this user would have. Let's comment this one, and in here we can add the user to some kind of database owner role as well. This is the DB owner, and we can type the username in here as well. After pressing execute, it takes just a couple of seconds, and it says that commands were created successfully. Let's refresh our user list, and we can see that we have a new user sync. As this user needs highest permissions on the database, let's check if it has one. Press right mouse button on the name of the database, select Properties, Permissions. We can see our user is here, sync. Let's see what permissions it has. It has connect permissions. Yes, it has only connect permissions. This might be not enough. So let's select alter permissions as well, because like I said, you will see, and actually you will see what will be created once the synchronization is done. So let's grant alter permissions for the user and press OK. Now, as we have our sync user created, let's jump back to the server synchronization configuration window in our browser, and we have to type the same user in here. So the username, sync, and the password. It might look like a new user has to be created in here because the password checker appears showing that your password is fine, but don't get fooled. This is not a new user. This is already existing user in the database. So it's just a proof that you have created a user with a strong password. For the member database, let's leave it empty and let's add on-premises database. It says that sync agent installation is required. Select create new agent. You will have to download the agent on your server. Press right mouse button, copy link address. Let's type the name of the agent we will use later and press create and generate the key. It will take just a couple of seconds, but don't copy this key yet. Let's go to our server. I have it here, and actually I already have the agent downloaded, but if you would open a browser and paste that URL we have copied before, you would get the screen to download the agent. Unfortunately, this is possible only with Windows applications. So if you have a MySQL on Linux, well, for now, you will not be able to synchronize your data. Let's close this window now. As we have it downloaded, let's double press and let's install it. Fairly simple procedure. Now, you have to type your computer username, the one that you're using to access this machine, as sync agent will need to access to some kind of network settings and proxies. And make sure that user you are typing in here has enough permissions on this virtual or physical machine on this server of yours. I am using my domain account. Let's leave a folder as it is and press next to install it. Yes, we want to install it. It's also quite a simple program, so it takes just a couple of seconds, and press close. Now let's find the newly installed data sync. Press start, data, and we can see Microsoft SQL Data Sync Agent 2.0. Yes, let's press OK, press on submit agent key. Now let's go back to Azure configuration window. Let's copy the key and let's paste it. In here, as well as before, you have two options. You can type a database user. Well, actually, yeah, it's the best way is to type a database user credentials in here, or you can type your own credentials if you have admin rights and you can access everything on the server. In this case, we have a SQL Express server and my account has admin rights in all of it, but I have a separate users. And like I said before, additional tables and procedures need to be created. That's why that user has to have alter permissions. Yeah, in some cases it's not good, but in this case we don't have a choice. So thing. Maybe you want to have another database you want to sync, not the main one, the one that you are using. So let's type login name and the password, press test connection to make sure everything is fine, and we got a message that connection failed. We are using the same sync user, and the new database was created like sync DB, but did we granted permissions for this user in that database? I don't think so. Let's fix this. If you are not sure what user to use, you can go to your database, press right mouse button, properties, and select permissions if any of the user has enough permissions. So let's check this one. We can see it has only connect permissions. So we should grant alter permissions if we want to use, for example, this user. But in this case, we don't want to use this user. Let's go back. Let's use another one. Let's press connect, test connection, and we can see it was successful. Press OK. Press OK. Next thing you have to do is you have to register this server of yours. So press on register. We can choose if you want to use SQL login credentials or Windows. So in this case, I'm gonna use Windows. In here, you have to register the server, type the name and the database of the server from which you are planning to synchronize to take the data and the updates of that data. So in this case, it's this on-premises server we're using. If you're not sure what name of the server is, just open SQL Server Management Studio and you can see the name at the top. So in our case, it's SQL02. Let's type it here. And the same with the database you want to synchronize. Let's type the name. You can press test connection. Well, it was successful. And let's press save. And we can see that it was added here in our databases window. Another very important thing to let you know, you have to open port 1433 on your server for a connection to be successful. So I'll just quickly show you how to do it. Press start, press firewall, Windows firewall and advanced security. Now we have inbound rules. These are incoming, and outbound rules. These are outgoing rules. 133 port. If you would like to add new rule, just press new rule, select port, press next, 1433, leave it TCP, select allow the connection, profile, yes, leave it like it is, name it, finish, and the port will open. We already have a port opened, so we can leave it like it is, and we can close the window. Don't forget about this, because, well, I tried everything before, so I didn't do, but you should do this at the beginning of this procedure, and if the port is not opened, most likely you will get the error message, so keep that in mind. Once the database is added, let's go back to our Azure portal, and in here we can press OK. Let's select the database. Let's type the name of this new member name. Let's call it STS Sync. We have our database in here. In here you can select how you would like the synchronization to work. You have a couple of options: bi-directional, to the hub and from the hub. So bi-directional, it will make updates from both the server and on-premises server, the hub and the member. To the hub, the changes from the on-premises database will come only, and from the hub, so it means everything you'll do on your Azure server will go to your on-premises server. In this case, we want to have the data that's changing on our on-premises server to appear on this Azure server. So let's select to the hub. OK, press OK. Let's press Add on-premises database. So we already have the agent created. Press on Sync Agent. We have created before. Once the agent is created, it will appear on the Sync Agent window in here. So let's press on it. Key is registered and we can see it here. Now let's go to our Azure Sync. We have two databases. One is on premises and another one is on Azure. So two of them. If you would have a member database, you would have three. But in this case, we are synchronizing data between two databases, so two, and that's enough. And the tables. This is also very important. You have to select what tables you want to synchronize. Press on the tables. Let's select our sync name, and we can see the tables we can synchronize. As you can see, not all tables are selectable. Some of them are grayed. I wonder why. I want to synchronize all the tables. Now it seems that I can't. How come? Well, the solution is very simple. You can synchronize the tables only if we have a primary key. As you can see, there are quite many tables and most of them does not have a primary key. So I can't synchronize them. I can synchronize only the tables that has a primary key. In my case, we had a project, a website, and it does not require to have a primary keys. That's why these tables does not have it. But I will create another video. You can see a link on that corner, top right corner, and I will show you how to very simply create a table, a copy of your current table with the primary key. So for now, let's select what we can and let's try to synchronize it. Let's select this table. We have a columns. As we can see, the first one is with the primary key. That's okay. This is what we want. Press save. As usual, you will see a notification on the top right corner. It will take a couple of seconds and you will see that table is selected and it appears here. Now, if we go to our sync database and expand it, if we expand the tables, we will see a bunch of new tables have been created. The same with procedures. There are quite many of them created in here. Like I said, it's a really good idea to have a new and a separate database for the data sync. I didn't lie to you, did I? But let's go to our main database, the one that we want the data to be synced. So let's extend the tables, let's refresh, and we can see that there are no new additional tables. So let's go back to the Azure, let's refresh the logs, and we can see that something is not okay. Login failed. That means that we have to check our user credentials and permissions on our STS database. So let's go there, let's press right mouse button, properties, permissions, yes, sync. Another thing that you might want to check is to check the password on your user actually. Maybe it's typed incorrectly. So in my case, that was the case. For some reason, the password was not entered correctly. And now, if we refresh the logs, we can see that data successfully was synced. And we can see that there was like uploaded 24 lines, downloaded nothing. So let's go to our database. Let's refresh just the tables. And we can see that sync table was added with some data sync tables. Let's press right mouse button, top 1000 rows, and we can see the data is in here. Let's make a small test and let's see if it really synchronizes. Let's go to the main database, the one that we are synchronizing the data from, and in here we have a table, our sync table. Execute it, and we can see the data in here, like ID 73, start with 73, and in our STS database starts with 73 as well. So it's definitely the same data. Let's delete the data from this database. Execute. Execute again, and it's empty. Let's go back to the Azure portal. Let's sync again. Actually, it's doing it automatically every 5 minutes. But in this case, we don't want to wait for like 5 or more or less or something like that minutes. So let's do it manually. 24 changes were applied. Let's go here. Let's execute the script, and we can see the table is empty now. So synchronization works, that's for sure, as we can see in this example. So this way you can make everything work for the data to be synchronized. Another thing that I can show you is how to remove everything out if for one or another reason you would like to stop synchronizing your data. So if everything is created and you want to remove the data synchronization and the table, let's take this as an example, because if you configured it, you probably don't want to remove it. But in case you would need this info, I will show you how to clean everything out. We have our SQL server and we have some databases. So this is the sync DB that we have created, and the original DB we made a data migration. You have to go to the database where your sync is configured. Sync to other databases, yes. And here we go. We have one for the sync agent and one for the Azure sync. As it's not doing that automatically, so it's already stopped. Press on delete. Yes. As we can see on the notification bar, it's moving, that means it's deleting right now. If you press here, we can see it's processing. It might take a couple of minutes, maybe 1 or 2, so be patient. Once it's deleted, you will see a notification that it was successfully deleted, and also it disappears from here. Let's go here. Let's delete the sync agent as well, as it will not let us to delete the database until it's not deleted. Delete, yes. Once sync agents are deleted, we can go to the overview of our database and we can delete it as well. Let's type the name and press delete. And as you probably remember, there was another database. So let's go to the home screen. Let's go to SQL Server. And we still have sync DB, sync database. So as we are not syncing anymore, let's delete it as well. It takes a little bit less time. If you press on the notification icon, we will see that everything was deleted successfully. But that's not all. You have to delete something from the server from which you've been taking your data from. So the agent, and I will show you. There are some tables and procedures that were created in the database. So you should get rid of them as well. Let's jump to our server, and we have a data sync 2.0 and the connection we have made before. The easiest way to remove Microsoft SQL data sync is try to press on here on the installation file. Obviously if you still have it. If not, then you should go through Add Remove Programs and select Remove Microsoft SQL Data Sync Agent. Next, yes. It's a very fast process, and in a couple of seconds it will be removed. But that's not all. Let's go to our database. We've been using this database, and if we extend programmatically, we will see that there are some additional stored procedures created. And quite a lot, I would say. And actually, that's not all, not just procedures. If we extend the tables, well, these are mine tables, but there are some data sync tables as well. And as you can see, they were created automatically for each table you've been synchronizing. Yes, Data Sync Agent will create stored procedures and additional tables for each table you want to synchronize. So you should think maybe it's better to have additional database just for data sync, where everything would not be mixed. Because as you can see, there are really a lot of tables in here and procedures, and that's not all actually, that's not all. Of course, the most simplest way would be delete it one by one and by hand by pressing right mouse button and selecting delete. But we don't want that to do, right? One by one by hand, that's so Ice Age, I would say. No, let's do it with a script. Everything at once, quickly and easy. I will open a new window, and now I already have a script. We have a nice script that will check. So it will check for the triggers, for the procedures, for the constraints, for the foreign keys, tables, define the types, and functions, also symmetric keys and certificates. This is how many stuff Sync Agents creates on your database. So like I said, be aware. Maybe it's better to have additional database for the data sync and move the tables to that database, the ones you want to have there. Once we run the script, we will see the notification messages, what was dropped and what was not. So in here we can see that there was triggers for the table we've been synchronizing, then procedures, data sync, like I showed you before. If you go below, we will see these data sync procedures, and tables also, like I showed you before. Data sync tables were removed as well. So now, if we refresh our procedures, we will see the ones that were created before. And that's all. Everything was removed. You can use your server as you were using before. And that's all for this episode. I hope you find it useful and you will have more knowledge how to make the synchronization and how to sync your data. Like I said before, think about some things that user has to have quite, well, actually the biggest permissions on the database, that it will create more tables, that it can make a mess, as you can see on the video before, or the mess your database with the tables, with the procedures and everything else. So keep that in mind while creating this synchronization, but overall you can make it and you can have your data to be synchronized on your Azure server. As usual, my patrons will get some more additional data, like the script, like I said before, and thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, please like it, please press that bell button on the screen, and see you next time. Cheers! It might take a... Nope. No. what we want to, well, no, I guess I will repeat. Oh, so noisy. This chair is very, very noisy. Noisy chair below. Example how to do that.